Hey guys, it's Alex from 7th Hour Films, and today we're doing something a touch different. If you've been watching my videos, you probably know I do a lot of movie reviews, and I've done a couple TV reviews. Well, today I'm doing a review, but it's going to be kind of different. Or at least what I'm reviewing is a bit different. Because if you're a DC fan, you have probably seen Supergirl, The Flash, Arrow, and DC's Legends of Tomorrow on the CW. And if you're a fan of those shows and you've been watching them, then you probably saw their big crossover that they did just this past week. So I'm just going to be reviewing that crossover because it kind of is its own little movie. So we're just going to take it one episode at a time. And yeah, so let's get straight to that. We're going to start with the first episode of which was Supergirl. It was episode 2, season 2 of episode 9 of season 2. There we go. Episode 9 of season 2, Medusa. Now the thing about this one is, it wasn't really a crossover. They were advertising that this was a 4-night crossover, and it really wasn't. The crossover doesn't really happen until the end. But I'm going to talk about the episode anyway, because technically it's part of the crossover. So, this episode of Supergirl is about Cadmus, which is this terrorist organization that wants to kill all the aliens on Earth. And they find a way from an old Kryptonian virus to kill all the aliens, and Supergirl has to stop them, along with Martian Manhunter, who is there. It's a pretty solid episode. Just from beginning to end, you can see a lot of the conflicts, like Lena Luthor. Sorry, my brain's kind of trying to remember everything. This was like a week ago. So Lena Luthor, you're trying to figure out, is she a bad guy or isn't she? I think she's kind of trying to figure that out, and ultimately she decides, no, I'm not a bad guy like my brother Lex Luthor, and she saves pretty much every alien on Earth. So sort of a quick review of that episode, but it's a very solid episode for Supergirl. And at the end of the episode, throughout the episode, there's a couple times when we see a portal opening, or trying to open anyway. And then at the end of the episode, a portal fully stays open, and the Flash and Vibe come through the portal and find Supergirl and say that they need her help, which takes us into the Flash episode. Sorry, I'm kind of adjusting my hair. Yeah, I'll need a brush. So, jump cut. And I'm back. Alright, sorry, that was really bugging me. So, let's go ahead and talk about the Flash episode. This is episode 8 of season 3, Invasion. So, in this one, we see Barry. He's just chilling out, talking with the crew at Star Labs, and they see that a meteor is about to hit downtown Central City. So Barry goes over to check it out, and when it crashes, it's actually not a meteor, it's a spaceship. And these aliens come out, they run out, and Barry is pretty much terrified and doesn't know what to do. Then they cut to the government trying to figure out what just happened, and Lila, the head of Argus, goes and tells Barry and the team at Star Labs that they're called the Dominators, and they're just here to invade the Earth. Like they already attacked the Earth once in the 50s, but it was all covered up. And basically Barry realizes that he can't fight the Dominators alone. So he goes to Star City to get Team Arrow, which consists of Green Arrow, Oliver Queen, Diggle, Spartan, and Thea, Speedy, coming out of retirement to fight aliens, because it's aliens. They also assemble the Legends team from Legends of Tomorrow, which is Mick Rory, Heatwave, Sarah Lance, White Canary, Jax and Professor Stein, which are Heatwave, and Ray Palmer, Atom. And then, Flash, Barry, and Cisco, who is also Vibe, they go to Earth 38 to go get Supergirl. And they actually re-show that scene from the end of Supergirl. So technically, you don't even need to watch Supergirl to know why she's here. But I felt like talking about it anyway. So they all gather around, and they decide that they should train against Supergirl. And before they do that, Jax and Professor Stein take Oliver and Barry to a more private place so that they can play a message for them that they found on the Wave Rider, which you can actually see in some of the previous episodes in Legends of Tomorrow. Excuse me. And the message is from Barry 40 years in the future, saying that there is a war coming and you can't trust Barry, actually. Barry's basically, like, outing himself, like, throwing himself under the bus. And, so, with that, after that, they decide that they're not going to tell anyone else about the message because they need to focus on beating the Dominators. And so, Professor Stein is actually getting, like, these visions of a different life, which he goes and investigates, and he finds out he actually has a daughter now in this timeline, when he didn't before. So he's going through that. Meanwhile, Cisco actually finds the message from Barry on, like, this old iPod, and I kind of complained about, like, characters just looking at an object and then just playing it. It's like, if that was just a normal phone, why would he specifically go and, like, play the message? Why would that stand out to him? But I feel like the reason it stood out to him in this show is because it was an old iPod. But that's just me. I mean, if I saw a really old iPod, like this kind of iPod, I'd be curious why it's there too. So, one second. Okay, so Cisco confronts Barry in front of everyone about the message, and they basically realize that they've all had their lives affected by Barry changing the timeline with Flashpoint, which happened at the beginning of Season 3 of Flash. One good thing about this crossover is they tie in a lot of plot points from the shows all into this one crossover. So, basically, no one trusts Barry anymore. Cisco already didn't trust Barry because it was revealed in the previous episode of The Flash that when Barry created Flashpoint and tried to fix it, it somehow caused the death of Cisco's brother. So Cisco's been mad that Barry basically got his brother killed because of time travel. Because he puts it like he took it upon himself to go change the timeline for him, and then it ended up killing his brother. So, So Barry is pretty much staying behind while the team like everyone goes and fights the Dominators who have captured the president. And Oliver says that this is stupid, Barry should go too. And basically, they don't want Oliver to go now either, because he won't go without Barry. And they basically say, well, we're not taking Barry, so you can stay here too. It's kind of stupid, but there's a reason why they kind of split the team up like this. So the entire team, except for Barry and Oliver, go to find the president. We have some great comedy between Heatwave and Supergirl, and they realize that it was just a trap. The president was a trap. The president is there. It's not like a fake president, like a hologram or anything. He's there, and he is actually killed. And the Dominators use this device to brainwash everyone there. So everyone goes back to Star Labs, where Oliver and Barry are, to go kill them, basically. And so then we get this big fight between Barry and Oliver versus the rest of the team. So basically, they kind of divide the team amongst themselves. So Oliver fights the non-powered people, pretty much. So he fights Diggle, Thea, Sarah, and Rory, Heatwave, while Barry has to fight Adam, because he has his Atom suit, and that is pretty dangerous. And he has to fight Firestorm and Supergirl. And he quickly takes out Adam and Firestorm using lightning, but lightning doesn't affect Supergirl because she's too powerful. And so they go off running, or Barry runs, she flies. And it's great CG. And they go off racing, and Barry finds the device that the Dominators use to keep everyone under mind control. And he actually tricks Supergirl into flying at him while he phases, so she goes right through him. And because she's invincible, she goes right through the device and destroys it, which is pretty clever. And then everyone's pretty much assembled back at Star Labs outside. Now that everyone is done being mind controlled. Oh, sorry, that's a clock. You don't care. And then Sarah gets abducted. Ray, Diggle, and Thea get abducted by the Dominators. And then Oliver is about to be abducted, and Barry runs as fast as he can to try to catch Oliver before they take him, but he's not fast enough, and he's taken. And that's where we see to be continued on Arrow. So let me just quickly review the Flash episode before I get into Arrow. So it's a really solid episode, and it's a good crossover. If you've ever seen any of the crossovers they've done before, you can definitely tell that, yes, it's a crossover, but it's still like told from a certain perspective. Like when they're crossing over on the Flash, it's more from the perspective of Barry, and more of the Flash characters get screen time. Even characters that have been on Flash before but are now like on Legends, they get more screen time because they were Flash characters. So Heatwave, Firestorm, all of them. And it's more from the perspective of Barry. So it's really interesting. The CG, like I said, is amazing. There's not much to say about that, but it's really good quality for TV. I thought it could... it obviously can't stack up to CG in a billion-dollar movie, or more than that even. But it was still really solid, and there were no points when the CG was bad. So yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about The Flash. I thought it was good writing, good acting. The only thing that I kind of didn't like was Cisco. because of how mad he was at Barry. And this is actually kind of a running thing with this crossover, is that Cisco becomes the biggest jerk to Barry. And some of it is deserved, but it kind of gets old very, very fast. So that is The Flash. We are going to move on to the Arrow episode. This is episode 8 of season 5 of Arrow, also titled Invasion. And an interesting thing about this episode is that it's the 100th episode of Arrow. Now, normally, or one would think that it's for the 100th episode, they would not do a crossover. They would keep it to Arrow and do a retrospective. Well, they do a retrospective in this episode, but it's still a crossover. And like Flash, Supergirl, they still have scenes in this. But now, because it's an episode of Arrow, it's told more from the perspective of Oliver. So, people were abducted, and they're basically put through they're put in a false reality, where basically, if you take the past 10 years of Oliver Queen's life, and basically starting, the boat does not crash. The Queen's Gambit does not crash. He doesn't end up on that island. Basically, this is kind of like his flashpoint. Like, what if the boat never crashed? What if he never became the Green Arrow or anything? So that's kind of what this is. And everyone that was abducted are in the same they're in the same false reality. And the episode basically brings back old characters, actually. They bring back Laurel, who died in season 4. They bring back Malcolm Merlyn and Deathstroke. It's not Manu Bennett, which is bad. Or, not bad, but it sucks. But it is Deathstroke. They have a big dude that has a Deathstroke mask on, and he's pretty cool. They bring back Damien Dark and stuff like that. And so it's basically, you're seeing this alternate sort of reality of Arrow, kind of like at the beginning of season 3 of Flash when they were going through Flashpoint. So yeah, basically, I'm going to try to get through this quick because we've been going for a little while. On my phone it says 21 minutes, but I think I've cut some stuff out. So basically, they have this whole dream sequence while everyone else in reality is trying to figure out how to save them from the Dominators. So we have this whole sort of false reality episode, and it is really like heart-wrenching because there are many points where you start to get emotional because these are, all these characters are back from most of them being killed throughout Arrow. So they're all back. So, yeah, they do end up realizing that it's a false reality. And the Dominators try to keep them there or at least try to stall them. At the end of it, they have all of their greatest enemies lined up to face them. So for Oliver, it's Deathstroke. That's his greatest enemy. For Thea, it's Malcolm Merlyn, because she really hates him, and he is also her father. For Sarah, it's Damien Dark, because even though they didn't meet in Arrow, they've had history in Legends of Tomorrow, because Damien Dark has showed up there, and Damien Dark killed Laurel in season 4. For Diggle, it's the Hive ghosts, basically the soldiers of Hive, because his brother was one of them, and he had to kill his brother because he was evil. And for Ray, it's actually a couple Mirakuru soldiers because they killed his fiancée during the events of the end of season 2 of Arrow. Excuse me, my voice is getting raspy. I've been doing a lot of recording this week. And I'm somewhat coming down with something. It's cold. It's December. It's that general winter that people get, so I'm fine. But you don't want to care. You don't care about that. So there's this big fight, and it's really cool, and they all are defeated, and they all end up back in the real world on the Dominator's ship, and then they escape in one of the smaller ships. And then the Dominator, the mothership, starts sending like hundreds of smaller ships to go after them. And then they're saved by the Wave Rider from Legends of Tomorrow, which is being piloted by the professor whose name escapes me. I think it's like Dr. Hayward. I don't remember his first name, but it's Steel. And that's the telephone. So hang on. Are we rolling? Alright, sorry. Alright, I'm sorry about that. I was just, what is it, like national health care or something? I don't give a crap. Like, I'm trying to talk about Arrow and these people are calling me. So, okay. Anywho. Hang on. There. I'm a little bit more centered now. I still gotta take a drink. What was I talking about? Okay. So they're saved by the Wave Rider. And basically, they find out that the Dominators have like this super weapon that they're about to deploy on Earth to kill all life on Earth, pretty much. And so that's pretty much where it cuts, and it says to be continued on DC's Legends of Tomorrow. So let me go ahead and give thoughts on this episode of Arrow while I keep trying to center myself in the frame. So I think for the 100th episode, this was a really good episode. It showed pretty much, it brought back all the characters pretty much. Not all of them, but most of them. And it really, it was a really good tribute to pretty much all of Arrow so far. And something interesting is that in the last episode, in the Flash episode, Oliver was trying to help Barry, and he was saying, look, anyone with your power would have gone back to save their loved ones. And he was saying, my father killed himself so that I could live. My mother was stabbed by Slade Wilson. It's like, Oliver was basically saying, I would have done that. And then in the next episode, he's given that life if he had survived. Or if the boat had never crashed and none of this stuff ever happened. So it's pretty interesting. And it's a pretty good continuation of that story. There's not really anything that's particularly bad about this episode. Cisco is not in it a lot, so I didn't get like too mad about him and him just complaining about Barry and stuff. So I'm trying to think if there's anything really bad. There was one thing that was kind of rushed, which was Wild Dog, who's on Team Arrow, basically doesn't like people with superpowers, and so he doesn't like Flash or Supergirl. And within like one scene, that's all changed because they beat up some chick who was also evil with superpowers. So, and he was like, well, if anyone's gonna have superpowers, it's good that it's you two. So that was kind of rushed, but who cares? So overall, it's a great episode. One thing that is interesting about it is when you really think about Arrow, like, if you've seen the show, imagine, remember episode 1. What was episode 1? It was episode 1. Dude comes back from being trapped on an island, supposedly, for 5 years, and becomes a very dark vigilante. And it's a dark, grim show. Now let's go to episode 100. That same dude, 5 years later, is escaping an alien spaceship and is saved by a man who can turn into steel, piloting a spaceship that is also a time machine. What happened between episodes 1 and 100? I've seen the show. I've seen the show completely. And is like, how did we get here? It's crazy. But yeah, there's nothing more really to say about it other than it was really good. So now we're going to move on to the final episode of this crossover, and that was the episode of Legends of Tomorrow. This is episode 8 of season 2, and again, it's called Invasion. I'm just going to take a drink before I get started here. Okay. So, with this episode, this is basically where everything comes together. Their first plan is they need to get info, they need to get intel on the Dominators. And there's no way to just capture one of the Dominators and interrogate them. So, they decide, since the Dominators attacked in 1951, they're going to take the Wave Rider back in time and go take one of the Dominators. So, and they do that. It's Heatwave, Steel, Dr. Hayward, Amaya, who is also Vixen, who's been on Legend of Tomorrow but just hasn't been in the crossover yet, and Felicity and Cisco. So they go and they try to get one of the Dominators, and the Dominator basically says, we're just attacking, we're just trying to see if Earth is a threat, and pretty much they don't think it's a threat, because they've seen, the reason they wanted to know if Earth was a threat was because of the people with powers that popped up in the early 20th century, which is actually referring to the JSA, the Justice Society of America, which has been seen in Legends of Tomorrow in Season 2. So, that's basically it, is they've come back, they've come to see if we're a threat, and they don't think that we're really a threat right now. So they leave. And then they go back to 2016. I'm trying to remember this, and I just watched it last night. So they go back to 2016, and the gang decides, well, this super weapon is still coming, and it's actually not supposed to kill all humans. It's to kill metahumans. Excuse me. Because they find out from this crotchety old government a-hole, and he's basically saying the reason the Dominators come back is because of Barry Allen. And because the Dominators somehow, this wasn't really explained, but the Dominators know that Barry changed the timeline and created Flashpoint. Somehow they knew that. And with that kind of power, they want to destroy metahumans and pretty much Earth before Earth can become a threat to the universe. So it's actually it is interesting, but they basically say, like, you have to hand over Barry, or the Earth will pretty much be destroyed, I think. So, Barry, being the noble guy that he is, decides that he is going to surrender himself to the Dominators. No one wants him to do that, and they decide that they're gonna try to take out the Dominators. So the plan is to go to the super weapon and turn it into something else. Now, what does that mean? Well, Firestorm actually has a power. It's like transmutation, I think it's what it's called. Basically, with enough firepower, Firestorm can turn one object into something else. So he can turn a table into dirt if he concentrates hard enough. So the plan is to have the Wave Rider hold the bomb that's being dropped with the tractor beam. Firestorm goes up and tries to transform it into something. Meanwhile, the Dominators that are on the Earth are going to be attacked by everyone else. So, excuse me, I need a drink. Ooh, alright. Sun's starting to come out. So we get this big battle between the heroes and the aliens. Heroes versus aliens, which is the title, right? Oh, where's the title? I guess if you're watching this in full screen, the title, if you move your mouse, move it a little. Yeah, right there. Heroes versus aliens. I should be like right here or something. Alright, it's probably disappeared because you stopped moving your mouse. But if you get out of full screen, like right here, it should say Heroes versus Aliens. Anyway, I'm meandering. Anywho, so there's this big battle, and they do win because Firestorm is able to transform the bomb into water, actually. And they defeat the Dominators, and the Dominators are like, alright, let's get the crap out of here, because these guys are too much for us. So we don't know if the Dominators are going to like regroup and then come back and try again, or what. But they lost, basically. So everyone goes back to this place that Star Labs owns that looks a lot like the Hall of Justice. And so they all go back and they celebrate. Stein has decided that he's going to not go back in time and try to fix the timeline, because it's actually his fault that he has a daughter, because sorry, that's the clock. Stupid clock. Basically, Stein met his younger self and told him to give more attention to his wife, and he did, and that resulted in a daughter. And Stein decides that he's going to keep his daughter, basically. He's not going to try to go back and change time again. So, and then Kara actually gets a device from Cisco that will allow her to go back and forth between Earth 1 and Earth 38 whenever she wants. And there's also a communicator in there so that she can always get in touch with the team. And actually, something I forgot to mention is somehow, I don't remember how, but when Cisco went with some of the team, when they went back to 1951, they somehow changed the timeline. They changed the timeline and made it worse. And they made things worse. And when they get back and Cisco realizes what they did, he kind of sees the error of his ways, because he realizes He went back in time. He took it upon himself to go back, and he changed the timeline, trying to make things better, but it made things worse. And he realized that that's exactly what Barry did. And so now Cisco understands what Barry did, and while is not totally able to forgive him, he's still kind of mad, but he does forgive him. He understands now, and so he's not going to be a complete a-hole like he was over these 3 episodes, which kind of got old. But so that's pretty much all for the crossover. Thoughts overall is I thought it was pretty good. Yes, the Supergirl episode was not part of the crossover, really. But someone had an interesting thought with that, is that they probably got Supergirl after they had already planned out the crossover. And so they kind of just threw Supergirl in there, which is pretty obvious because she's not really focused on. She's really just there. She doesn't do much. They train against her. She fights some aliens. That's it. But it was fun seeing her there. She had some good lines, and yeah. So, but the 3 episodes that were really the crossover were really good, solid episodes. And I'm interested to see where they go from here, on their own shows and when they come back for another crossover. And honestly, to me, this was better than like Batman v Superman. Maybe not to like Avengers level, but this was really solid, I think. And it actually, I'm just going to say it, I don't have faith in the DC movies anymore. I just don't. Maybe like the solo Batman movie, maybe that could be good, because I did like Ben Affleck as Batman, and if he's writing and directing and starring in it, then that might be alright. But the Flash movie, I've already like decided that it's not going to be as good as the show. There is no way they can be better than this. So, yeah. So, I guess, should I rate the crossover? I guess I could. I rate movies and stuff. Or I rate movies. Excuse me. Alright, so final verdict. If we're going to give this a rating, what to rate? I am going to give this, I'm going to give this an A. Not an A+, because there are some things that kind of take it down from an A+, but it is still definitely an A. It's great comedy, great action, great lines, great actors, great characters, great everything. There's just some minor complaints. So, yeah, that's pretty much all for the crossover. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this. I know it's a little weird to review a crossover of a TV show, but I really liked it and I wanted to make a video on it. So that is pretty much it. And I'm going to try something a little different, and there's going to be like the end cards and the button here. I don't know when those are going to pop up, but yeah, if you like what you see here and you want to see more, you can click like, you can comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. You can subscribe. You can check out like these 2 videos here. You can go follow me on social media. I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I'll see you guys next time.